What if I told you that people who seem naturally happy aren't actually any luckier than you? They've simply trained their brains to respond differently. Most of us grew up believing that happiness is just something that happens naturally. A good day just happens. A good mood just comes. And when happiness doesn't arrive, we think there must be something wrong with us. But in neuroscience, it's a completely different story. Your brain isn't a fixed trait sitting in your head, waiting to dictate your mood today. It's more like a muscle. It adapts to whatever you repeat on a daily basis. This thought alone can change how you see everything, because it means your current baseline emotional state, the one that makes some days feel heavy before they even begin, isn't something you were born with. It was built, little by little, through repetition. And if it was built, it can be rebuilt. What does that look like in everyday life? Imagine you just woke up, your feet haven't even hit the floor, but your mind is already racing. There's a lingering sense of anxiety and a vague dissatisfaction that you can't quite put your finger on. Most people react the exact same way to that feeling. They seek distraction. Scrolling through their phone, putting on a video, listening to music, watching something, anything to drown out the inner discomfort. In the moment, it seems to make you feel better, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. Not because there's something wrong with your brain, but because, over time, it has been unintentionally trained to constantly expect chaos and find ways to escape the silence. Every time you repeat a behavior, your brain doesn't just remember it, it creates a dedicated pathway for it. There's a famous principle in neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. This isn't just an inspiring catchphrase, it's how associative learning happens at a biological level. So, if your daily life revolves around distraction, comparing yourself to others, and inconsistent habits, then when you feel restless or unfocused, it's not because your brain is broken. It's just doing exactly what you inadvertently taught it to do. The hardest thing to accept is also what brings the most hope. If old habits created your current state, new habits can reshape it. So let's dive into what that retraining looks like, habit by habit, and more importantly, why each habit works on a biological level. Habit 1. Control dopamine. Instead of chasing it. The first step to change is learning to control dopamine rather than constantly chasing it. Many people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but that's not entirely accurate. In reality, dopamine is the chemical of anticipation, motivation, and the drive to pursue a reward. The problem is that many people consume a massive spike of dopamine stimulation within the first few minutes of waking up. Phone notifications, short videos, constant stimuli, they all create a massive dopamine peak. It feels great, but whatever goes up too fast must come down. Afterward, your baseline dopamine level drops lower than where it started. Suddenly, work becomes boring. Conversations lose their appeal. Normal life can't compete with the constant stream of stimulation you just received, so everything starts to feel bland. It's not because your life is less interesting, it's because your brain's dopamine system is out of balance. The solution isn't to eliminate dopamine from your life. Honestly, the brain doesn't even work that way. The key is to change the sequence of your activities. Delay those highly stimulating inputs. When you first wake up, try to resist the urge to grab your phone and scroll. Instead, let your brain start the day gently. Drink a glass of water, walk around for a few minutes, or simply enjoy a quiet moment before all the noise and information flood in. This isn't a test of willpower. It's how you give your brain's reward system time to recalibrate, so the normal, everyday things in life can feel satisfying once again. Habit 2. Get morning sunlight. Have you ever noticed that just taking a walk outside for a bit makes you feel so much better, even if there's no specific reason why? That's no coincidence. And that brings us to the second habit, getting natural morning sunlight. It sounds too simple to make a difference, but this is one of the habits most proven by circadian rhythm research to be highly effective. Your brain runs on an internal biological clock, and that clock is regulated primarily by light. When morning sunlight hits your eyes, it signals to your brain that a new day has begun. From there, your body adjusts how it uses energy, when you'll feel sleepy, and the timing of hormone release throughout the day. If you miss this signal, your biological clock operates less accurately. That often leaves you feeling sluggish, drained, and more irritable. Just spending about 10 minutes outdoors, without your phone in hand, is enough to start resetting that signal. Many studies also show that getting natural morning light can help regulate serotonin, a neurotransmitter closely tied to mood stability. It's a tiny change, but it can have a much bigger impact than you'd think. Habit 3. Move your body. The third habit is movement. Not the kind of workout that requires hitting the gym or following a complex routine, just regular movement. Whenever your body moves, your brain releases a mix of endorphins and dopamine, helping to regulate stress and improve your mood. But here's the thing very few people talk about. Motivation is not a prerequisite for action. In most cases, motivation is the result of action. A lot of people wait until they feel motivated before they start moving, and then they wonder why the motivation never shows up. The shift in your mental state happens after you start moving, not before. So on those days when you don't feel like doing anything, a short walk isn't just a nice-to-have option. It's often the exact thing that helps you break out of that rut. Habit 4. Embrace stillness. The fourth habit is giving your mind a few quiet minutes without needing to do a single thing. Most of us are almost never truly in a state of doing nothing. Even when we rest, there's always a podcast, social media, or a show playing in the background. Your brain rarely gets a moment where it doesn't have to take in information, and constantly processing so much input eventually leads to mental fatigue and makes you more emotionally reactive. You don't need a complicated meditation practice. Just sit still for a few minutes, no phone, no talking, and let your thoughts come and go on their own. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, and that is completely normal. Your brain has grown so used to the noise that it treats silence like something foreign. But if you repeat it enough, something will shift. You'll become less emotionally reactive and start observing more. That pause between an external trigger and your reaction is where true emotional intelligence is built. Habit 5. Notice the small wins. Fifth, make it a habit to notice your small wins. The human brain has a built-in negativity bias, an evolutionary hangover that prioritizes spotting threats over recognizing progress, because missing a danger was far more costly than missing a win. That bias kept our ancestors alive, but in modern life, it mostly just makes us feel like we're constantly falling behind. If you don't actively counter it, your brain will default to scanning for what's wrong. So at the end of each day, take a minute to ask yourself what you did right. It doesn't have to be massive. Finishing a task, keeping your cool in a moment that would normally make you snap, trying even when you didn't want to. Acknowledging that will release dopamine in a healthy, earned way. And true confidence isn't built from one spectacular breakthrough moment, but from countless small wins that you recognize and appreciate over time. Habit 6. Reduce decision fatigue. The sixth habit is cutting down on unnecessary decisions throughout the day. Decision fatigue is a well-researched phenomenon. Every decision you make, no matter how small, drains a bit of your limited mental energy. What should I wear today? What should I eat? What should I watch? Which task should I reply to first? By the time a truly important decision comes up, your ability to think clearly is already partly depleted. So, simplify the things that don't need too many options. Build a basic routine for the parts of your day that don't require creativity. That isn't boring. It's a strategy. A calm brain has more room to think clearly. And that feeling of inner clarity feels a whole lot like happiness. Habit 7. Curate your mental diet. And the seventh habit is proactively choosing what you feed your mind. Every piece of content you watch, every bit of information you take in, becomes the raw material your brain uses to build how you think. If you are constantly exposed to comparison, outrage-inducing news, or endless chaotic information every day, your mental state will gradually reflect exactly that, whether you realize it or not. This doesn't mean you have to cut everything off and live isolated from the world. The key is to be selective. Prioritize content that helps you grow instead of just mindlessly killing time. Your brain will slowly become what you consistently feed it, so feed it with things that are worthwhile. The secret: consistency over intensity. And here it is. The one thing that truly determines whether all of this will work or not. Consistency, not intensity. This is where most people fail, and it needs to be made crystal clear so you don't repeat that vicious cycle. They try to apply all 7 habits at once. After just a few days, they feel overwhelmed, quit entirely, and conclude, "This method just doesn't work for me." But the truth isn't that it doesn't work. It's that no brain can reprogram itself after just one short burst of effort. Pick 2 habits. Do them every day until it doesn't take too much willpower to maintain them anymore. Only then should you add the next habit. That's not the slower path. That's the only path that is truly sustainable. Does this sound familiar? You start out full of determination, but by week 2, you slowly give up. If so, you're not alone. And it's not because you lack willpower or have a character flaw. It's simply an untrained brain trying to keep up with a completely unrealistic pace of change. True change is usually very quiet. While it's happening, you rarely feel anything particularly special. But then, one day, you realize you're calmer in situations that used to stress you out. You don't react as impulsively as you used to. And after a normal day, you don't feel quite as exhausted anymore. That's not luck. And it's not because you suddenly became a different person. It's the result of a brain that has been trained to operate on a new default pattern. Most people wait until they feel happy to start changing their actions. But reality works the other way around. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. You don't need to wait for motivation to build a habit. Building the habit is what creates the motivation, because your brain gradually learns to anticipate the reward that comes after that action. When that new pattern becomes an automatic part of your life, you'll no longer have to chase happiness as if it's somewhere out there. Instead, you start generating happiness from within yourself, because honestly, that's where it always starts. So, if anything in this video made you look at your own habits from a new perspective, don't just finish watching and leave it as just another good video. Pick one habit, just one, and start today. Not next Monday. Not when things get less busy. Today. Your brain is always learning from what you repeat every single day. The real question isn't whether your brain is learning, it's what you have been teaching it, and whether you're ready to start teaching it something better. If this video gave you a new perspective on your own mind, let me know in the comments which habit you're going to start with. And if you know someone who is also stuck in the loop of waiting to feel better before taking action, send this video to them.